listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey there, welcome to the show. Today, KellanFluckiger.com. You know, one of the fun things about having a weird name like Kellan Fluckiger is, when I went to get my website, I didn't have to argue with anybody. Nobody wanted KellanFluckiger.com. I got it for $2. What a cool thing. So I've got this weird picture in the background. I hope you're watching the video. This picture came from one of those AI art sites, right? Where you create art with artificial intelligence prompts. And I had done several about the phoenix. Now, the phoenix is really important to Kellan because of the legend around the phoenix. So the phoenix lives a certain amount of time, and then when it's old, it bursts into flames and then is reborn from the ashes. What a cool thing. Well, I feel like my whole life's been like that. Reborn from the ashes over and over again until the final time. And the final time was in 2007. Now, before 2007, I was in a career, a very lucrative career with a lot of high-profile positions, made a lot of money and had, all the trappings of, quote, success. But behind the scenes, I was not living a happy life, and there's a really simple reason. Money isn't equal to happiness. Money lets you buy your favorite misery. It facilitates you for, doing whatever it is you want to do, vacations and a big house and cars. But, I had all that. I had 6 cars in the garage, right? And one of my neighbors told me later, every time I went by your house, I had garage envy. I didn't know that till later, right? It's kind of funny. But anyway, what he didn't know was all the misery that was going on inside. And you know what? Before I was that successful, I used to think in my mind, everything would be solved if I had more money. If I just had more money, like not a little bit, but like a lot, a big cash, so I could buy whatever I want. And when I got there, nothing was different. My heart wasn't lighter. My smile wasn't bigger. I had more toys, more memberships to this and more season passes to that. But those things don't make happiness. And I don't know if you're like me, I used to think that was crap. But if I had all that money, I'd be good. Those people that have it, they must be good. But that's not true. All you have to do is look around and see all the folks that, are unhappy, full of rehab centers and commit suicide and all the rest of the misery that goes on. Happiness is made out of something else. And there's nothing wrong with money. And we're going to talk about money today. Money, 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 money. How to make it, how to get it, how to create it. But before we do that, I want to make sure we understand that creating money is not hard. Number one, creating money is not hard unless you make it hard. It's not hard. Number two, money isn't going to, quote, solve all your problems. Oh, it may solve an immediate problem if the IRS is after you and you owe 10 or 20 or 50 or 60 or $80,000 in tax. That was me once. Many years ago, I went to the bank one day to pick out $500 in cash. I wanted some cash. I needed to do something, right? And I went to the thing and I wrote a deposit, put it in there, plenty of money in the account. And the teller came back and said, can't do this. I said, what are you talking about? There's no money in your account. What? They brought out a letter. It was from the IRS to the bank that drained all my accounts, every one of them. Zero. So a big pile of cash would have solved that IRS problem. But the more interesting question is, how the heck did I get in that situation in the first place where I owed the IRS, I think it was $80,000. It was, back in some years before, and I either hadn't been getting or had been ignoring their letters. I don't really remember now, but I hadn't been responding, and so then they emptied my accounts. So that would have solved that problem. But the more interesting, powerful, useful question is, how did I get there? And was my life in the same vein and processes that put me in trouble in the first place? Now, fortunately, it wasn't. And that situation was left over from a previous person, not me. was me, but different face, right? Different set of behaviors, different actions, different person. The person that it used to be was one that was concerned about money, buying things, being cool, all that stuff, and it ended up getting me in trouble, among many other things, with the IRS. Now, that since got resolved, and I worked out a deal and paid it off and everything else, but I didn't have it then. I got zero. And so at that moment, I could have thought, well, if I had a big pile of cash, I'd be all set. Well, it would have eliminated that problem, but it wouldn't have changed who I was being. So we're going to talk about how to make money today. What are the principles of making money and so forth? And I'm not going to try to enroll you in some crypto scheme or some infinite banking. There's lots of those tools out there, and I love it. An infinite banking thing where you become your own banker is really cool. I've seen a number of presentations on that in my life, and I have not yet, didn't dive into that pond yet, but I think I'm going to. But that, again, has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about, making money. So principle number one, money's not the answer to everything. Money is not joy. Money is not happiness. Money does let you facilitate and purchase your favorite misery. It does let you have more things, but it doesn't make you happier. It doesn't make you a better person. It does make people want to hang around you because, they expect you to buy stuff. When I was in that position and had essentially boatloads of cash, everybody wanted to be around Kellan. Why? I paid for all the parties and paid for all the entertainment and paid for the trips and on and on and on. But it didn't buy happiness, not even among those people. It became entitlement. It became all kinds of things. And so I just want to get those things clear so that as we talk about creating money, one of the most important things to understand is why. Like, what's driving? Money is nothing. Money is an agreement. Money, we used to trade, tokens, and I grew corn, you grew squash, and we traded. Then, because we didn't live next to everybody that made everything we wanted, we invented tokens for trading. My wife, Joy, her dad was an archaeologist, and he used to do a lot of stuff up in the Pacific Northwest and up in the Northwest among the Inuit and other tribes up there, and among where the Hudson's Bay Company used to be. Now, Hudson's Bay, in case you don't know, is the oldest long-standing corporation in the world, established in 1600 and something. Anyway, all these trading posts used to be there, and they had little trading tokens that you could trade for things, right? Well, essentially money. And she had some and sold them, and they sold for a lot of money, but had nothing to do with their actual previous value. It was historical value. Now, museum stuff. So we had tokens, and then eventually we created coins and then paper, and now we use that a little bit. There's some places that don't even take cash anymore. No cash, don't want that. Now we trade with electrons. It's just an agreement. It's an agreement of value, substitution of value, and it's the tool we use to facilitate commerce. That's all it is. Now, there's a whole religion around money that means if you have more than I do, somehow you're more important. People that have money, they get first in line at this and better seats here. And that part is true, but it's also not important, and it also doesn't create happiness and satisfaction. Now, I don't know about you, but if I only could have one thing in the world, it would be happiness, not money. Because I've been to the other side where you have money and not happiness, and that doesn't cut it. And money doesn't buy health, it doesn't buy happiness, it doesn't buy love. It buys some phony and miserable substitutes. All right. So with that firmly established as the guiding principles for our convo, let's talk about making money. How does one make money, meaning that token of exchange? Well, the simplest way to think about it is in the barter system. If I wanted something you had, I grew corn. But me growing corn took some effort. I had to go get corn seeds. I had to plant them and weed them and water them and then harvest them, and then I had something. So I didn't just wave a wand and have something valuable to trade. Part of the religion around money that's such poison is we've come to expect that everything needs to be fast and easy. Well, that is a disease. I was reading a book the other day about an adventurer that's alive today. He wrote a book called The Wedge. And I don't have it right here handy, or I'd show it to you. The Wedge, but his premise has nothing to do with making money, But what he talked about is our society and civilization has become so unused to challenge and struggle and work that we have there's a big gap from where we used to be. And he was talking physically. He talked about our bodies. Our physical bodies are made to survive in harsh environments. If you know Wim Hof, you know that he's a guy that practices being in freezing cold and climbing, Mount Kilimanjaro in shorts and bare feet and, that kind of stuff. And the thing is he's not really any different than you or me, except he's practiced and he's reminded his body of how tough it is. And the discipline to create something, in his case, climbing a mountain, was just repeated practice of the right things. So I write songs and I practice the piano. Repeated practice of the right things makes me able to do it well, and perform, and have a lot of songs. I just saw today that 3 more songs that I put up are now up on Spotify and Amazon and iTunes and all the rest. If you're interested, the name of the album is Living in the Sunshine. But the easiest way to look that up is my name. Why? Because my name is so unusual. There's lots of music titled Living in the Sunshine, but there's nobody got music up named Kellan Fluckiger. Anyway, I've got 88 songs now on Spotify and all the rest of those platforms. But that it all took work, and here's the corollary with making money. People buy that music. I get paid. Oh, there's money. So 88 songs are up there, several albums. Some people don't like it at all. Yuck. Oh, who's this idiot? But some people do. And so what are we doing? We're trading value. But my creation of value is in the studio, thinking of the songs, putting them on the computer. I used to record on, big wide tape. You've seen those old tape machines. Now it's all in the computer. But it takes many hours, many hours to write songs and to record all the parts and then mix it and master it and get it ready for distribution. The reward for all that is, one, artistically, I love the music. I don't put out any music I don't like. And it's all kinds of genres, from electronic dance music to pop tunes to folk songs that tell stories and all kinds of stuff. But the work I put in is now the value that I trade, the corn that I trade, and people give me their beans or their electrons or the cash. So those are examples. Another example is books. I write books. I just finished number 19 about 2 months ago. It's in the publication process. It'll be out on Amazon in about 2 or 3 weeks. It's called Living with Purpose and Power. And like all my books, it's a personal development book. It's a manual, essentially, about how to learn to harness your own power and create the life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. I've put everything I know about how to do that and what I've done in there, and I now live a life where I love every day. And that includes creating cash. So I said earlier, creating money is not hard. It's not hard. And what do I mean by that? Well, I don't mean that you sit and it creates itself. I mean that your ability to create value exists. You're already doing it right now. Right now, you are selling a skill in the marketplace. If you're an architect, you're selling that education and skill in the marketplace. If you're the guy that created this AI art stuff, they get paid. Microsoft just invested, I don't know how many $1 billion to have control over DALL-E 3, which is the successor. This was done on the ChatGPT image platform, DALL-E -2, DALLE-2. DALL-E 3 is the next iteration, and my understanding is it's very, 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 big advance and a lot more opportunities and pictures and power and et cetera, et cetera. But the public version's not out yet because Microsoft bought it, and they're putting it in the search engine Bing. But here's the deal. The person that put the effort and energy into creating that is rewarded, okay, because they created value. Now, you can say, well, yeah, I can't code, and I can't paint, and I can't write music, and I can't write books. Okay, but you're already selling a skill in the marketplace. Another skill that I have now begun to sell in the marketplace the last 3 or 4 years is I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast that has over 815 or something episodes. We're on our way to 900 now. People pay to be on the podcast. Not a ton, but they pay a little bit to be on the podcast. It's not an appearance fee. They pay a little bit to be on the podcast to help me with production. So they pay a production fee because they get some good graphics and some social media stuff so they can spread their message and do some marketing. The money that I get from that is a trading of value. The value they get is exposure. They get to be interviewed by a world-class host, which is me. And again, that value of being a world-class host is because I've done well over thousands of interviews. So in thousands of interviews, I've become good enough at it that I've had very experienced people tell me, wow, that was the best interview I ever had. Well, I didn't ask for that, and I didn't know that, but I've heard that. So then I know, okay, I guess I do that really well. That is a skill to sell in the marketplace. And I do. So music, books, podcast host, graphic design, these are some skills we pay for. Graphic artists, graphic design, people who do websites, people who code. I pay a vocal coach. I have a vocal coach that I've had for years because I sing, and that's getting really, really good. And now it's on songs that are on, the distribution platforms. I'm using me as an example because I know me best. But now I want to talk about you. So what is the skill that you sell in the marketplace? Do you host a podcast? Do you write? I know people who sell skills on Upwork and other freelancing platforms, proofreading, technical writing, all kinds of skills related to their old work, project management. I know a lady who sells consultation with the FDA. She had some experience working with the FDA in the past. So businesses that have anything at all to do with the FDA pay her, several $100s to have an hour consultation. Now you may, every time I list something, you may say, not me, not me, not me. Well, here's the thing. If you keep looking for reasons you can't make money, you're going to stay broke. So in all the examples I'm giving, look for the ones that you already know how to do. Things you love to do, that you do well, not stuff you hate. Creating money with stuff you hate is possible, but it's not sustainable. So if you hate yard work, starting a landscaping business, not going to serve you well. If, on the other hand, you love landscaping and you love the design of landscaping and making yards very appealing and looking good, and there are people that love that. I'm not one of them. I would never sell services landscaping unless I was dying of starvation, and then it would be for as short a time as possible. So I wouldn't sell that skill in the marketplace. So the first key to making money is understand that money follows value. Money follows value. And that makes sense because money is just an exchange mechanism. And so if you want money, value has to happen. And then money follows along. Money follows value. So then the question is, what can I do? And I'm being you now. What can I do to create some value? Well, there are, I'm going to say infinite. I don't know if it's actually infinite, but there's at least a zillion, whatever number that is, ways to create value. Let me tell you some of the interesting ones I've heard. I know a lady who made a living with a podcast about astral projection. Now, astral projection is in the woo-woo land of, your spirit takes a trip in the astral plane, and I've read books about it, and I understand what it is. That isn't the point. Whether you believe in that or not, I don't even care. She did a podcast on that from her attic in England, and she had followers and, sold things and made a living doing that. Astral projection. Wow. I know another lady who makes a living making and selling quilts and then teaching people to do that. I know people who make money, I don't know if it's their full living, from taking old patterns that are from the 50s and 60s, making the clothing that's in those patterns and selling them. I know people who make a living booking people on podcasts, not even on the podcast, not even hosting the podcast. I know people who make a living doing graphics. I know people who make a living writing music. I know people that make a living being advocates for different causes. I know a lady who was a guest on my show, and I love her to death. She's a beautiful, wonderful woman, and in fact, I had her a few months ago as a guest on this show. She makes a living with a podcast and raising dogs for service dogs. And the awareness about the service dogs and her special way, like she's got a whole special story and it's fabulous. She had a daughter with some special needs, and so she's got an amazing story. But it isn't the amazing story that people are drawn to. It is her sharing it. So there are as many ways to make value, create value, as there are people. There's all the traditional ones. You can go get a job. You can be an accountant and a office manager and a admin assistant and a travel agent. I went to my 50-year high school reunion the other day, end of August, so end of September now, so a little over a month ago. And I got COVID, by the way. I think it was there. It's the first place I've been in a small room with 150 or 200 people. And I came home and I was sick and got COVID. I avoided it for 3.5 years, but I finally got it. I'm over it now, and it's all good. But anyway, I saw a lady there that I remember from high school, and she has been a flight attendant for all these years in between. She loves it. She loves her work. She's been able to travel and do all kinds of stuff, and has had a life that she really loved. The value that she created was being a flight attendant. So principle number one is money follows value. And so the first thing you do is think of 20 different ways that you could create value. Maybe you don't want to do 2 of them, 10 of them, 15 of them. 20 different ways. Some people learn to do stand-up. Some people are in bands. Some people open nightclubs. Some people run restaurants. Some people coach. I'm a coach. But I'm also an author and a musician. And as a coach, how I create value is I take people who have this yearning inside to make a difference, to be a messenger, to start a movement. They have a vision, visionary stuff, and they want to do stuff, but they feel like they don't know how. I don't know how to do that. And so consequently, they don't do anything to create the value that could come from that vision. So it remains a vision in the ether, and nothing ever happens to create the value from it. Or they're afraid to. I'm afraid I'll fail and I'll look stupid. I'm afraid I'm too old or too young, not experienced enough, or I've never done this before, so I don't know how. We're going to talk about that how question in a minute. But my purpose, this whole Ultimate Life project, is to help you understand you have both the right and the opportunity to create a life day to day where you get up and love everything about your life. You love what you're doing to create value. You love the impact you create, and you create the cash you need to live and live comfortably and well. And that cash isn't magic. It's because you've created this value. Now, we've talked about this next part a little bit before on other shows, but most people are not using their best tools to create value. It's kind of like planting your garden in crappy soil on purpose. Now, if you have a plot of really good, rich soil, and you've put Miracle Grow on it, really good, and you just let it sit there, and you plant your garden in the crappy, dry, rocky soil next to it, what do you think's going to happen? You might grow some stuff, but your ears of corn are going to be scrawny and they're not going to be worth a lot. And the question is, why would why would we do that? Why wouldn't we plant it in the rich soil where it's very likely to grow really good and a lot and have a lot of value to trade? Well, that is a silly example and nobody in the right mind would do it, but you're doing it all the time. You're doing it all the time. And here's how that translates into creating value. You have different ways you can create value. You could go mow lawns. And if you hate mowing lawns, you could go do that or some other thing that you hate. I'm going to go do this work because I can get paid, but I don't really enjoy it. It's not very fulfilling. It doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make much of a difference, but I'm going to do it anyway. And you could ask the same thing. Why in the world would you do that? Do you know that over 75% of people surveyed are doing that very thing? They have a job. They're selling some skill in the marketplace and they don't like it. Unhappy in their jobs. That's like planting your garden in crappy soil. You're free to do that. And yep, it will produce some value and therefore you get paid and you can live. But you're feeling this yearning of, why am I settling for this lousy harvest? Well, you're either unaware of this beautiful plot of ground that would be more productive, or you're unwilling to do the work to plant over there. Now let's talk about how that works. Whatever skill you're selling in the marketplace right now to eat, you either love it, you're indifferent, or you hate it. It's over 75%, and often the percentage is higher depending on the survey, of people are unfulfilled and actively dislike their job. Oh, work for the weekend. Oh, no, Monday morning, that whole drill. Oh, hump day. Oh, it's Friday. Yay. That sort of thing. What a disaster to work your whole life at a job you don't like. That's, again, planting your garden in the dry soil. So let's talk about what else is possible. Besides that skill that you're selling in the marketplace right now, whether you're an audio engineer or a painter or an architect or a fast food delivery person, or you got a new job in this whole new delivery industry that's out there, or you work in an office, or you are a paralegal, like whatever you do, you're selling a skill in the marketplace. There's nothing wrong with that. It's been feeding you. But that's the dry soil. The second skill you have that could sell is your natural gifts, things you're naturally gifted at. So let me give you some examples. Some natural gifts are really obvious. I have a client who's a world-class painter. He is gifted in painting, visualizing beautiful things and capturing them in drawings, paintings, and all kinds of stuff. So he can sell that skill, and that's fine, and he does. If you mix your natural gifts, and a lot of us have natural gifts that aren't like painting or music or acting or something. Before I go to the mix, let's talk about other natural gifts. Most natural gifts, like way most, are not visible like skill in art or music or anything else. Most natural gifts are inside. Maybe you listen really well. You make people feel really heard. Maybe you're one of those people that always knows what to say. Maybe you're really creative and you have ideas. Like creative, I don't mean creative writing. I'm talking about just creative in the way you look at problems. You're one of these people that can step back and see things in a different light. And that's a fabulous natural gift. I talked to somebody the other day and asked them about their natural gifts. And right away, they said, I'm a really, really good organizer. Another person said, well, I really know how to motivate, help people be motivated and, stay motivated to do something. There's 1,000, 10,000 of those natural gifts. I've just mentioned a few. So you could sell that natural gift into the marketplace. Now, it might be a little more difficult. If you're going to be a musician, that's hard, or a painter, that might be a little harder. But I'm not advocating selling that skill alone. What I'm saying is most people do not take the time and energy to mix those and make a list. Here's the skills I know how to sell. And maybe you've been selling them a lot, doing them to create money. And here's the natural gifts I have. And I know that because I love to do this, or people call on me to do that, et cetera, et cetera. And what would happen? How could I merge those? How can I take at least some of these and create a different offering, create some other thing I could offer in the marketplace? Well, I can tell you most people have not sat and gone through that exercise. That's one of the things I love helping people do, because without fail, there's always a combination that they're not using, that they could use, it's really obvious, and guess what? It's more valuable than either one of them alone, and that stands to reason. And when you sell a skill plus a gift together, it's more valuable. So guess what? You create more value, and guess what follows? Ooh, there's money coming right along. Money's cruising right in there. Now, the third element that you can sell in the marketplace or use to create value is lessons from your life experience. And you might think, well, what are you talking about? Well, let me tell you. When I was in rehab, one of the many times, because of my history between 1977 and 2007 of self-sabotage and addictions, I met lots of counselors, and I met lots of not only counselors, but, the administrators and people that were part of the whole mechanism to help people with mental health, addictions, and all that stuff. Almost without fail, I won't say every time, but maybe 70, 80%, 8 out of 10 of those people came from the world of having struggled with mental illness or addictions or having a family member that had those things. So in other words, they had gone through a life experience that gave them special insight, special ability, more empathy, more patience, more power in solving this problem. And so they were drawn to that kind of work. So you have skills you learned in college or trade school or as an entrepreneur as a kid. You have natural gifts, and you have life experience, which is the basket in which all of your life has unfolded. Those three things every single person has, and they're different for everybody. What people don't want to do is take the time to figure out, how can I marry these three powerful gifts? But you know what the reward is? The reward is most money. You can make more money if you combine those three things than doing anything else. And it's not hard to understand why, because that is your most valuable offering. It is most authentic to who you are. It is consistent with what you've learned. It is right dead center in the passion that you have. When you've come through difficult life experiences and you combine it with your natural gifts and skills that you've learned, that's super valuable. It is the highest value. There isn't even anything above that. So the first principle is money follows value. The second principle is pay attention to what you're trying to sell in the marketplace. Is it the most valuable offering you have? Are you running a lemonade stand in the summertime when you could be offering something far more valuable, when you could be a high-powered chef in a 5-star restaurant? That's often what we're doing. We're selling the lowest tier of what we have to offer. So money follows value. Number 2, pay attention to what you're offering in the marketplace and go find a way. Don't just say, well, could I upgrade it? No, I don't know. Can't see it. No, go find a way to upgrade that, because money follows value. If you upgrade your offering in the marketplace, you're going to create more value and get paid more money. So the third thing is a poison that we've created for ourselves. It's a goblet of poison that sits in front of every person who's thinking about the questions that I just said. How can I do this? It doesn't apply to me. I can't think of anything that I can do. I don't know how. Asking how to do something is the biggest distraction and the biggest waste of time that you could possibly do, except not trying at all. Here's why. Until you start with a project, you won't have any idea how. You can't. I learned to ski when I was in my 40s. I was 45. So I didn't learn when I was young. I started learning skiing when I was 45 years old. And asking, which I did, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I got all kinds of explanations and demonstrations about weight and distribution and balance and leaning and going up and down. And you know what? All of that explanation did almost nothing to help me learn to ski. The only way I learned to ski, even after asking all those how questions over and over and over again, was to go do it, to go start and fall down a bunch of times, fail a bunch of times, and learn by experience what it meant to lean and to have weight distribution and the edge of the skis and all of the things that go into skiing. And if you don't ski, you don't know what I mean, but you can imagine. Because if you don't ski, you would have been like me the first 45 years of my life. And then for the next 3 or 4 years, I worked on it hard. And I learned, and I got really good. I certainly wasn't going to compete in any Olympics, but I could ski all the black and even double black slopes. But it took the experience, the effort. We have a disease in our culture right now, and the disease is the idea that everything ought to be easy. We have delivery that's same day, next day delivery. Solutions are available off the internet, download and double click. The AI revolution is now, threatening to put writers and creatives out of work because computers are going to do everything, right? And with all of that noise comes the idea that everything should be easy. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. If you want to create value and you want to create a lot of it so you can create a lot of money, you're going to put in a lot of work. You're going to create value by putting in repeated effort. I was reading a book by Stephen Pressfield, and it's called, the name of it's Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be. And he talked about the successful novelist James Patterson, who has sold over 300 million books. Yeah, big number. You know how he started? He had a full-time job as an advertising exec. He got to work early and spent from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. writing every day. Closed his office door and wrote. Well, in a year, that's 360 hours or 9 full-time work weeks. According to Pressfield, and I haven't tested this, but that's long enough to write a novel. A novel a year in 10 years is 10 novels. And so you see, he was a dedicated full-time writer for an hour a day. Most of us, most people that I talk to, they don't want it to be that hard. Okay? They keep asking how, and what they're really saying is, can you please give me an easy, foolproof, idiot-proof, no setbacks, no failures, no embarrassment method that if I just follow this paint by numbers, it'll create an online business, a website, a consulting practice, a novel, a book, some unique way to make me a bunch of money without putting in the effort. So if you've listened to this show thinking I'm going to give you that, Go. You're done. I'm not. You can have all the money you want, and it is not difficult to create. But you have to start by creating value. And what we've been talking about, money follows value. To check how you're creating value right now, look at your 3 areas of sources, right? Your existing skills, your natural gifts, and your life experience, and ask, how can I augment the value that I'm offering in the world? I do that all the time. I'm a coach. So I write more books. I read other people's. I have a coach. I look into all the time, how can I add more value to my clients? Now, I don't do it because I'm trying to make more money, but that's just me. I don't need that. I'm happy with where I'm at. But I do it because I really want to add more value. And you know what accidentally happens? I make more money. But my focus is, how do I add more value? Now, I don't expect to do it right the first time. I don't expect to succeed every time. I expect to fail. I expect to flop around on the ground like a fish out of water. I expect to be embarrassed. I expect to do it wrong. And I have chosen not to care. There's a well-known personal development person who I love dearly, and I've read many of her books. And one of the sayings that she says is, what other people think of you is none of your business. And you might recoil in horror at that idea and think, if people don't like me, they won't buy my stuff. You're right. The people who don't like you won't buy your stuff, and you don't want them to. But if you stop asking how and just start acting in the creation of your vision, then you will find those people who do like what you have to say, who hear your story, your triple combination of existing skills, natural gifts, and life experience. I know I've never had the opportunity to talk to anybody who within a half an hour or an hour's conversation, we can't identify that thing that they could do. I don't know if they will. And they can see that it would be valuable, that there is an audience of millions. Like, I've never found someone who couldn't have an audience of at least millions. You can't possibly even serve that many with whatever it is you're going to offer. So I'm not here to propose a particular money-making scheme. You know, there's affiliate marketing and there's all kinds of activities that are supposed to generate you money. What I'm talking about is the way to generate money that's the most fun, the most fulfilling, and incidentally will make you the most money. And you'll have the most fun in your life doing it. And that is, remember that money follows value. So then the next question is, how do I create value? Okay, how am I creating it now? What am I offering in the marketplace? How can I raise the ante? How can I up the value of what I'm offering in the marketplace? The 3 places to look are your existing skills, your natural gifts, and your life experience, and figure out some combination of those. Now, if you want help doing all that, that's one of the things that I do. I'd be happy to help you, because my only goal is to help you succeed. Like, I started this podcast, the podcast and this LA Talk radio show, with the idea of helping you right here, right now. My commitment this year, and today's October the 3rd, so I got 11 days and my year ends, is to help 50 million people. 50 million people to discover and to serve with their gifts. That's my commitment. And that's what I've been doing, creating a way to add value to 50 million people. So I'm offering help to you. If you can't figure out how to offer something more valuable, I'll be happy to help you figure it out, because I know you have it. So number 1, money follows value. Number 2, figure out what you're doing now and add to that value. Number 3 is stop asking, how do I do that? If what you're really asking is, how do I do it without mistakes? How do I do it without being embarrassed? How do I do it without working hard? Because you're not going to find that. Billions upon billions of dollars are built out of people looking for the dream, wasting money, looking for the easy button. Now, you're free to do that. I'm not saying, I'm not chewing out people that live like that. I used to live addicted to mediocrity. And by that, I mean I was able to make a lot of cash, but I had an unhappy life. That is mediocre, far below our opportunity. Most of us, most of the time, live far below that until we make a choice to live on a higher level, to go do the work to get there. Are you ready? Are you ready to do the work? Because wherever you are in the money platform, if you want to go here, there is a road. There is a path that goes from this money level to that money level. There's a way to get there. Absolutely no question. What I discover over and over again when I talk to people and we explore, what would it take to create a movement of money from here to money from here? And we figure out exactly what it would take. You'd have to do this and this and this. Then it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, that's exactly the same as saying I don't really want that money. So when I say money is easy to create, that is the truth. If and only if you're willing to walk the path. It's the same way with writing books. One of the things I love to do, because I've written 19 books, is help people who feel like they have a book inside to write it. And I talk to people all the time, oh, I want to write a book. And what they're looking for is some kind of fill-in-the-blank, no-brainer system. And you know what? Those exist, but they don't produce very good books. And they're not very fulfilling to the writer because they don't feel like they've really put their heart and soul out there in their work. So I have a system. It's called the story arc. I wrote that book too. But it's only for people that say, well, I really want a book and I want it to be good. I want it to matter. I want it to be the springboard for a bigger business, for a coaching program or an online class or a speaking career or to launch a seminar business about a particular thing. Okay, that is doable, very doable. Again, there's a road from here to here. So as we get close to the end here, I want to remind you, number one, money follows value. Every time, all the time. Number two, you're already creating value, selling some skill in the marketplace. There are three places you have offerings: your existing skills, your natural gifts, and your life experience. Are you combining those to your best advantage? And the third thing is, are you willing to put in the work that it takes? Nobody got to the Olympics accidentally. Nobody got to the top of a business profession accidentally. Nobody fell up the mountain. And those aren't intended to be indictments or harsh truths, but they're true nonetheless. And even those people that seem like they have overnight success, it isn't that. What it really is overnight awareness. We didn't know about them yesterday, and now suddenly we do. What we don't know is the 10 years that went on before that, because that wasn't in our awareness. I can promise you, you have skills and gifts you're not using. You have opportunities to create value you haven't tapped. Money is a reflection of the value that I create or that you create. You can have the money you want if you'll do the work that it takes to get there. My commitment to my clients and everybody that I talk to is, number one, to help you realize how cool you are, how valuable, how powerful, how masterful, how amazing. I've never met a person that I just wasn't in awe of their skills and gifts and abilities. They may or may not be using them, but you can see them in just the conversation. Wonderful, powerful. You, wonderful and beautiful you. Now the question for you is, are you content to settle and stay where you are? You can do that. Lots of people, they stay settled where they are and are content to just bitch about the things they don't have. You're free to do that. But there is a group of you right here, right now that are feeling what I'm saying. You know what? I don't want to stay there. I don't want to stay there. I want more. Comma, and I'm willing to do the work to create it. Wanting is just the first piece. You have to want it, desire it bad enough to create the real vision. What does it really look like? Oh, I just want a whole bunch of money. That's not enough. What's your real vision? And the driver, the engine to do the work is why. See, when I created my money, I just wanted it because I thought it was cool and supposed to have it, and then it turned out to be empty and destructive. Today, I have a huge why. My why is to be of service. Oh, I love that. And you know how that feels, being of service. You'll find that magic triple helix that you have is always aimed at serving, because it is in serving that you and I create value. So I'll say again as we close what I said to start with. You can have all the money you want. Creating money is not difficult. There is a path from where you are to where you want to be, if you're willing to walk it. If you are, you will be able to live in purpose, prosperity, including the cash you want, and joy as you create and live your ultimate life.
You're listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.